Are there any that aren't, actually?
No, there are a few. When we started, it wasn't really a focus. It was more about surviving as a restaurant, and so we've really tried to make it a focus.
Which is hard enough.
Right.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, we've really tried to focus on, if we want people to support our restaurants, we really need to support the local businesses, the local food sources. So we're really doing promotions that, using local strawberries, using local corn, and using local honey. We've had different programs that just teach the members how important it is to just try one product in their restaurant. So I would say, probably 80% of the restaurants use a local product, but I wouldn't say that, we're all on the same level.
Mm-hmm. As far as that. Jeff, do you want to add anything?
No, not really.
I mean, well, what about in terms of? I mean, everybody's making choices when they go to the grocery store. What are the choices that they make that then wind up influencing what your produce buyer is looking for the next time he goes to an auction?
Well, I guess the earlier comment was seasonal. There's no question that buying things in season is always better than buying things out of season. There's no question that the product picked yesterday is going to be different than product that was picked in California 3 days ago. Those are realities. I don't know, quite frankly, that the average palate could tell the difference in some cases. Some cases it would be dramatic. And so certainly seasonal makes a huge difference. And as a retailer, that's our challenge. I can't tell you the number of complaints I get when we don't have raspberries or strawberries on the 24th of December. And obviously there's not a whole lot of U.S.-grown raspberries, and although they're changing because farmers are different. I mean, we talked a lot about homegrown strawberries, and they're learning how to extend the season. They start the plants in hoop houses and under plastic, and they're learning to extend. And so suddenly the homegrown strawberry season, which could be as short as 2 weeks sometimes, is stretching out. And those are all good things, and that's where science has made a difference. And so other than buying seasonally, and the other trade-off for people is price. We always talk about it's the three-legged stool. It's price, quality, and service. And price is important, and especially in times like we're in currently, price makes a difference. And it's great for people who can afford to pay $4.99 a pound for tomatoes, but if you can get a tomato for 79 cents, that is just as good, just grown differently. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. It's just different.
Mm-hmm. Mary Holmes, one thing we haven't mentioned is that community-supported agriculture. Right. You want to talk about the sort of CSA programs that are around?
Yes, they're actually burgeoning everywhere. It's very exciting. I wrote a report in 2005 on entrepreneurial farmers and tried to identify what CSAs were out there at the time, and I really only found one, which was Crown Point. But now there are many, many farmers who are coming to farmers markets who are adding CSAs. For those of you who don't know, a CSA is basically a share of a farm product. So if you want to join a community-supported agriculture program, you pay up front a fixed fee, and then usually that's early spring when farmers are buying seeds and doing their planting. And then over the course of the harvest season, you get usually a weekly basket that should ultimately end up being equivalent to what you invested in the first place. Right. So there seem to be now many of these programs developing around our region, and it's very exciting because not everybody can go to a farmer's market, but people still want that fresh seasonal product.
Let's get another question.
Hi, my name is Ariella Reback. I'm an entrepreneur in the food movement here in Cleveland. I have started a business called Green Pastures Poultry that will bring pastured chicken and duck. This is wonderful stuff that's raised directly on grass locally to the markets this coming June. So my question to you is, I work with a group of growers, and their issues are simply, how do we get our wonderful products to market? And so I've stepped in to work with them to do that. But my question is the same. How do I best get my product out to those who want it?
Doug Katz, why don't you start?
If you're talking about a restaurant, I think the most important thing is the distribution method. You have to come to the restaurant. You have to show the chef or the people in the kitchen that it's something that you're going to make it accessible to us. The hardest thing is for a chef to leave the restaurant and to procure all these products because you're so busy each day. So the less you have to do that, the better. So if you can bring it to the back door. An example is we have a mushroom farmer who brings mushrooms every Wednesday and every Saturday. And he was the first person, well, not the first, but one of the first consistent ones we used because he would call us on Tuesday. He would have the product there Wednesday. He would call us on Friday, have the product there Saturday. And it was so consistent, and he made it so easy for us to transition, and we didn't have to worry about it. Whereas if someone says to me, I have the most beautiful greens that I want to sell you, and they call me and then never hear from them again, it's not something that I have so much time that I can pick up the phone every day and call these people and find out if they're coming. So it's really important to make sure it's accessible.
Jeff Heinen?
I would agree with what Doug said. I mean, part of it is it's how do you get it to where it needs to be sold, and that's why people use auctions for produce. It's why they use distributors, and so they can consolidate that. And I heard Doug also allude to the consistency issue. Even more important for a supermarket than a restaurant. To your point earlier, is if we don't have mushrooms today, we have a problem, and so consistency is very important, unless it's a product that the customer, if for instance you were our sole poultry supplier, we couldn't afford to be out of poultry. If you're just an additional one, and it's still got to be consistent, it doesn't have to be quite the same level of consistency.
Let's take another question.
It's a terrific program. Thank you. It seems like a point that in which you're all in agreement is that things that we used to think of as commodities aren't commodities. And I think as consumers, we yearn for these simple decision rules about what is good. And so we think local and small, it must be good. It simplifies the decision. And Jeff, you've challenged that in saying that the world isn't black and white. And I'm wondering, other than urging us to pay for the higher priced thing, what sort of steps are you taking to help educate us about how to be better consumers and eat better, particularly in the produce section?
Well, we could definitely take more steps than we're taking. I mean, we're trying to have our people know our stories. We try and do it electronically through our electronic marketing. We try and do it through signage. We try and do it through product demonstrations. I mean, we're trying to educate, but the reality is people are living pretty hectic lives today, and the people who are very interested about where their food comes from will maybe take the time to listen. The people who aren't don't, and so. But we go to the trouble of sourcing in part because we think that's going to be a growing movement of people who do care. In part because I'm like that farmer who lives on its land. I eat my own food. I do care where it comes from, and so, but I think it's continuing to educate, and it's all the venues. It's farmers markets. It's restaurants. It's every venue, and the customer gets a little more interested, a little more educated, and then suddenly they'll ask better questions, and don't have to. Once they understand the answer or trust the person, then they don't necessarily always have to ask. I don't know if that answered your question, other than we need to get better.
Another question.